Welcome back to another episode of In Conversation. This is the Father's Day edition. So I'm super excited today that I will be here chatting with my dad. And as you can see in the flyer, if you saw it, he is a multicultural marketing expert. He's an entrepreneur, former president, national president of the National Black MBA Association. So super excited to have him. Hey, D, thanks for joining. So let me go ahead and dial Derryl Reed in. Let's see, I'll send this invitation. But hopefully you guys are having a great Father's Day. To all the dads out there, thank you for all that you do. Happy Father's Day. Hopefully you've been enjoying your day. You've been able to relax and get pampered like moms do on Mother's Day. There he is. Hi, Dad.
Hey, Nikki, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm honored to be on your show.
Oh, well, thank you for agreeing to be my guest. Happy Father's Day.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Awesome. How is your day going?
It's doing good. I've been up early, working on some things and whatnot, and getting prepared for this discussion.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a good day so far.
Good.
Did church via TV, via internet, and it was nice of you to have a visual shout out for me at church.
I did. Yes. Awesome. Well, thank you so much again. I'm just going to pin this info so people know who I'm talking to. My dad. Hey, Tanya. Tanya said Houston's watching.
Is my lighting okay?
Yes, your lighting looks good, Dad.
Okay.
Good job. Let me see. Can I pin it? Can I pin it? Can I pin it? Let's see. You know, pinning is an issue. Okay. There we go. All right. And we're ready.
Okay. While you're doing that, let me just say this.
Absolutely.
It's really an honor and a pleasure to have such an awesome daughter. You've heard me say many times, you've always made it very easy for me to be a proud dad. So I continue to be proud of you.
Thanks, Dad. I'm supposed to be talking about you. This is father, not daughters. Let's see. We have Columbia, South Carolina watching. Hey, cuz. Everyone's wishing you happy Father's Day, Dad. But thank you.
Thank you.
And say thank you just for being a great dad, super encouraging, empowering. You've been a great example with all of your career experience, as we'll get into, and life experience. You know, you've shared a lot with me, encouraged me. So I appreciate that a lot.
You're welcome.
So let's get started. I would love for you to share a little bit about what you do and who you are. So that can be, you know, you starting with, you grew up in Chicago and all that, but let's just share a little bit about your story, Derryl L. Reed story with those.
Well, as you mentioned, my story starts in Chicago, Illinois.
Mm-hmm.
Born there at Providence Hospital, the hospital where Dr. Daniel Hales Williams performed his first successful open heart surgery.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so I grew up in that environment. My parents, my father did his undergraduate work at the University of Chicago. My mother got her master's at the University of Chicago. They were married over 60 years. And many of the things I experienced with them, I incorporated into my life about how I do things, especially how I raise a fantastic daughter. I have some flashbacks of my father was somewhat demanding because he grew up in a demanding environment. He was an only child. His mother died when he was about 7 or 8, and his father worked on the railroad, so his father was gone a lot. And I remember if I wanted something, I had to earn something. If I wanted him to buy me something, for example, I wanted a new baseball mitt, so I had to audition for him to get this baseball mitt. So he came to my baseball games, and luckily I was playing center field, borrowing a mat from one of my neighbors, and I caught a fly ball out in center field. So I go in and the coach is doing the lineup, light hitter, heavy hitter, light hitter, heavy hitter, light hitter, pointing at me. I said, what? No, my dad's here. You don't get it, you know. So my time comes up to bat, and, you know, I got to show off for my dad. I do hit home run.
Good.
It was not a ball over the center field fence. It was a line shot ground ball down the first base line. I had a little speed, so I was able to make it around the bases, sort of like an infield home run. So
Okay.
I got my baseball mitt, to make the long story short. And then I some figure ice skates. So I had to audition to my father for figure ice skating because I was wearing other hand-me-down hockey skates. So same thing, I went out and did some loops and turns and spins and whatnot. So I got my ice skates. And other things I remember about my parents is that they always tried to attend any event or program I was participating in. So that's something I carried forth when you were born, to try and make all of your events. If I was on the road traveling, I would come home that night, then go out the next morning. And I was there when you took your first steps. I taught you how to ride the bicycle. I taught you how to drive a car, all with mom's support, of course. But that was sort of how I grew up, very close neighborhood, still friends with some of the kids that were in that neighborhood to this day.
Mm-hmm.
And that sort of got into leadership, that for some reason I was always picked to be in charge of stuff or elected to stuff.
This national we're interested in it.
No, I just bonded well with people.
Okay.
And I guess I had the skill set to take on whatever project was up. So I was like treasurer of my elementary school class, only officer, vice president of my senior class, chairman of this and that, president pole mark of the Kappas down in college, regional president. I mean, just a whole bunch of stuff. Black MBA Association, VP Chicago, president New York, board of directors, national president, chairman of the board, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
That's a lot of leadership roles.
Yeah, there's a lot more we don't have time to go into.
Let's go. One of your favorite stories of being in a leadership role. All the ones you mentioned, what's one of the favorites? And thank you guys for joining. They love your stories already, Dad. So.
One element to be a good leader is also be a good follower. So this is sort of a follower position. I was pledging for the fraternity spring quarter, and the brother said, we're having a party at the frat house. We want all the prettiest young ladies on campus to be there.
Is this a story I want to hear before you get into it? Do I want to know this dad college story?
I'm going to keep it clean.
I don't need the whole college life of you.
So I was bashful, basically. This attractive young lady on campus I wanted to get to know. So I had to go invite her because that was the mission, right, for the rollers. And I went to go see her. I talked to her and I said, I'd like to invite you to go to a party with me. And she said, yeah, okay, I'll go. I said, no, you understand. I'm inviting you to go to the party with me. Yeah, okay. I said, no, you understand. I asked her 4 times before I believed that she was willing to go with me. So that was one of my little stories there. And then I just turned wild after that.
Yeah, my friend Drew said that sounds like a story from the movie School Days.
Well, School Days was almost written after what we did, that in Animal House.
Oh.
And copying what we were doing.
And this
But there's a lot of responsibility with leadership. Sometimes it's a lonely position because there's a lot of Monday morning quarterbacks. You should have done this, you should have done that, and whatnot. Also, I think to be a good leader, you have to be creative, innovative in ideas. Ideas are sort of like a butt. Everybody's got one, but all ideas are not necessarily good. So stiffness, yeah, I know it took a little while to catch on. Ideas like everybody's got one. But really a good idea is only as good as the execution and how well you execute it and pull it off and make it happen and whatnot. Mm-hmm. Another thing, you have to build a strong team around you. You have to be secure enough that you can have people around you that are equally as strong as you are, who fill in gaps that you don't have. Like when I was national president of the Black MBA Association, my national treasurer was Derryl McElvey. And he worked for an oil company. I'll leave names out. And he was in charge of Australia and that for their finance group. And I got a chance to go visit him while he was in Australia. In fact, you were there. We did a family trip there.
I was going to ask if that was the same guy. That was a great
Yeah, that was the same one. Gerald was living large. He had a company, Mercedes sedan, He had a 4,000 square foot house, swimming pool, tennis court.
Beautiful. It was
which
beautiful.
was holding the Australian Open at the time we were there. And Tiger was playing, so he took me over to see the tournament. I got to see Tiger play, and it was like an exciting trip and whatnot.
Yeah.
Derryl then became president of his company's foundation, and Gerald's now retiring, playing golf, and having fun. You have to be willing to have strong people around you to round out your team as a leader.
Mm-hmm. So what do you think, so you got your undergrad degree at Southern Illinois and you got your MBA at University of Chicago and then also joined the National Black MBA Association. What was sort of your motivation in getting your master's and then also becoming a part of an organization around that?
Okay, that's a good question. As an undergrad, my major started out as a chemistry major. And I thought I'd want to become a chemist, but I didn't know what I was going to do with chemistry.
Mm-hmm.
Wish that CSI had been on at the time. I would have become a CSI back then. But I remember I was taking one chemistry class and I was behind in my experiments. I said, no problem. I'll do multiple experiments and catch up. So I'm in the lab and I've got about 3 or 4 experiments going on. One involved working with ether. And I distill some of it off. And you're usually supposed to use a hot water bath.
Okay.
Slowly. I said, well, if I use a Bunsen burner, it can move faster. Bunsen burners can get up to a maximum of about 2,700 degrees Fahrenheit at the maximum, that hot. So I'm working on my experiments and I hear there's a fire in the lab.
Oh my gosh.
So my experiment turned into a fire. Luckily, the instructor had a fire extinguisher. He was able to put it out. So that about my experiments. I'm thinking like, well, maybe chemistry is not the direction I should be going in.
Yeah, chemistry.
Yeah, chem, physical chemistry, and that was the confirmation that I was not going to become a chemist. Switched to math major, chemistry minor.
Okay.
Okay, so then I wanted to become a math teacher, give back to the community. Couldn't get an assignment. Although they had a shortage of teachers, I passed all my certification exams and everything, had my degree. So I was driving a bus during the summer that I graduated, waiting for school to start. So then I decided to also substitute teach since I couldn't get a regular assignment. So I was driving a bus at night from 9:52 p.m. to 6:24 a.m. and then I would go substitute on the days I wanted to. Yeah, it was a pretty heavy schedule.
When did
But if you
you sleep?
When
did you sleep?
In between, every time I had a free period in school, I'd go to the teacher's lounge and go to sleep. Because I'd be at different schools, as a sub, wherever they sent you. So they're wondering, like, who is this guy in the lounge asleep?
Wow.
So it was me. But the summer I graduated from high school, because my birthday was in July, all the good jobs were gone by the time you were 18. So then I had 3 jobs. I worked 84 hours a week the summer I graduated from high school. So 2 jobs was not a big deal to me at that time. So then I finally got a call from a headhunter. It says, we have a position in sales. Are you interested? I said, sales? No, I'm not interested. Going door to door selling brushes? I said, no. That was my concept of sales. You going door to door. He said, no, it's not like that. I said, well, you have assigned a territory. You have some specific accounts. You have a company car and an expense account. So I'm like, when can I start? When can I start? So my first interview was at the corporate headquarters in Greenwich, Connecticut for American Can Company.
Okay.
Go out there and the interview goes well. At the end of the interview, the guy, I'm getting reimbursed. He pulls out a wad of dough. He says, how much was your airfare? I told him what the airfare was. He just peeled dollars off his wad. But did you have breakfast? Yep. How much was your hotel last night? Yep. And parking, etc. He said, well, you probably forgot a few things. Peels off a few more dollars. I said, I think I like this company, So I went back. They interviewed me locally, and I got the job.
Okay.
Out the gate, I was number 1 in sales. Yeah.
Types of
Sales. Products were paper products, paper towels, napkins, Northern, Gala, Aurora, Wax Tex, Dixie cups, stuff like that.
okay.
And at American Can, I really started, once I finished my MBA, I got to work on the marketing department. But in sales, those are the products that I sold, primarily to grocery store managers.
Okay.
And I'll never forget, I started December 7th, 1970. And I guess about 6 or 7 months later in 71, I was selected to represent the company at an event, a Las Vegas night, just a fun thing for the industry. So I'm leaning over the crap table or the roulette table, rolling dice and cards and whatnot, and I feel a hand on my head. And my first reaction was like to draw back.
Yeah.
And quickly it's like, oh, you're at a corporate event. So like I turned around, must have been a guy, like a white guy about 70 years old,
Okay.
who had drank too much. And he just wanted to touch a natural. He wanted to see what an afro felt like.
Oh gosh.
My thing was like, well, I don't think you should do that.
No, we are not here.
Yeah. Fast forward, I won all the sales contests. So I started substitute teaching on Fridays. We were supposed to make 8 calls a day. So I made 10 calls Monday through Thursday. So I got my 40 calls. They gave me a free day on Friday. So I was working 4 days a week.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually going to grad school at night. So I was working full time, going to grad school and substitute teaching on Fridays.
Okay.
The marketing department would come out, make presentations. I thought they were sort of boring. Some of the people would fall asleep and whatnot. And they were making a lot more money than I was. I said, what do I have to do to get one of those jobs? And so we have to have an MBA. I said, oh, okay. I'm going to grad school.
Yeah.
And they had a tuition refund program.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And I remember when I was graduating from high school, I never thought about applying to the University of Chicago, even though my parents had gone there. I just didn't have the self-confidence, basically.
Yeah.
But at this point, that was the only grad school I applied for, University of Chicago, and I got in.
Chicago, right?
Yeah, University of Chicago. And they're always ranked one of the top schools in the world, in the top 5, whatever list you look at. And they have more Nobel Prize winners than any other school in the world. So, yeah, it's a pretty prestigious place. And they test your mettle. It's very analytical.
Mm.
So I got my MBA, 4 years at night. The regular program was 2 years full time, but I had to go. I didn't have the money. So when I finished, I got an offer to switch to marketing, go to the corporate headquarters. But before I went, I took a year off. I didn't tell them I had graduated because I wanted to hang out and party a little bit for a year. So,
Of course.
of course. So at the end of the year, it was like, well, okay, you've had some fun. Time to get serious. Let's go to work. So I relocate to Connecticut. And I'm thinking I'm going to be there 1 year and then come back to Chicago. 17 years later, I moved to Michigan with a wife and a daughter. And there's some interesting steps along the way.
Yep.
After American Can Company, I went to Tedley Tea.
Okay.
They had tea and coffee products. At American Can, it was like, you know when it's time to go. My last year was very unhappy.
Mm-hmm.
But to get vested, you had to be there 10 years. So I wanted to get my pension money. Vesting means that you had access to the dollars that were set aside for your pension plan. Okay. So that's, but my boss and I weren't getting along and whatnot, getting beat down. So I go to Tedley, I become a superstar again.
Okay.
With rolling out their national program. Tedley was sold primarily east of the Mississippi, a large regional company. I helped convert it to be the #2 company in the U.S., hitting market share, sales, and profits in the 100-year history of the company. Nice. So that was cool. Tedley was like a family. I hated to leave. But at that point in time, I got another phone call from a headhunter. Mm-hmm. But, we have a job for you at Hubline in the wine and spirits industry. And it's a 40% increase in salary. Yeah, it was like the decision was already made. You know? I got a family starting. We want to buy a house. That helps. Yeah, 40% increase in salary.
And the wine and spirits didn't hurt. That didn't hurt.
Oh, no. In fact, I remember my interview. I went in, and all the product people have liquor in their offices. The
Oh,
brands working on. I'm saying like, wow, this is gonna be interesting.
right.
So the first thing I started was like, put some liquor in my office. Had to be like my peers, you know. So that was going good. It was fun.
Okay.
It was getting paid to have fun, to throw parties. We'd go around, we do bar parties and things and volleyball tournaments and stuff. We travel around to a city. We take out the distributor and the sales force. They meet us at the hotel. We have drinks. We go to dinner. We have drinks. After dinner, we have drinks. Go to the hotel, close the bar, and then get up, do a presentation, go on to the next city and start over again. So that was how that was. But then we got acquired by Grand Metropolitan.
Okay.
And whenever there's an acquisition, companies usually overpay to acquire the assets they want. And once they make the acquisition, they'll offer the stockholders a significant increase in stock price. And since the management team usually has most of the stock, I said, yeah, pay me, write me a check.
Yep.
So they were acquired. And then the first thing companies usually do is reduce headcount to reduce expenses to afford the acquisition.
Mm-hmm.
So that was one of the last hired. So it was time to chop off my head. But my boss, a little racist, I'll say that, envious or something. So he wrote rather than sit down and say, hey, Derryl, here's the deal. We have to reduce head count. You're one of the people that has to go, but we're going to take care of you, blah, 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 blah. He writes up a performance appraisal that's very negative.
Ooh.
Like my fault, rather they have to let me go.
Oh.
So I was very unhappy with that.
Yeah.
So, you know, in a performance appraisal, you have a chance to write a rebuttal.
Okay.
So before I could do a rebuttal, I said, I have some questions before I can do a rebuttal. I would appreciate if you could answer these questions. I had 102 questions in my rebuttal. Yeah, 102 questions. And I had a friend in the HR department who was helping me in terms of the guidelines. My boss and I had taken the same performance appraisal workshop. He did not follow company policy in doing the performance appraisal. So I included that. Why didn't you follow company procedure in this appraisal? But one of his comments in my appraisal was that one of my product managers, a young lady, had become demotivated and frustrated since working for me.
Wow.
I said, okay. Question number one, since she spends more time in your office than she spends in mine, and you spend more time in her office than you spend, what makes you think I'm the source of her frustration and demotivation? I didn't tell you this before.
It's so funny. Every time I hear it, I've heard it like once.
That was the first question. So it's circling around HR and management.
Yeah.
And president of our division, can I set up a meeting with you? Sure. So he reads the first question and he does time out. And I was enjoying coming to work to fight this. It was energizing me.
Oh my goodness.
And one of the things the guys did, now this is in the mid 80s, before sexual harassment was really big and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
These guys would have a meeting with the promotion department, which was primarily young ladies. They would open up Playboy magazines in the meeting saying that they're looking at the liquor ads for the industry. Okay. Imagine that happening today.
No, it would.
Going through Playboy magazines. So everybody was like giving me these tidbits of information.
Yeah.
I'm incorporating that in my write-up. Well, your meetings are unorganized and blah, 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 blah. I said, well, first of all, those are not my meetings. Those are my product manager's meetings.
Mm-hmm.
If time I sit in on them. What meetings are you talking about? What dates were the meeting and who was at the meeting? He had no detail. He had nothing.
Oh.
So fast forward. I asked my uncle, who was an attorney. He was vice president, labor relations, compliance law for American Can Company, a company I used to work for. So I asked him, went over his house. We had a chat, a little Jack Daniels. I told him what was going on. He said, I got your back. So I set up a meeting with him and the legal department at Ameritech. They're not in business anymore, so I don't mind mentioning their names. So he meets with them for about an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes. The outcome of the meeting is that there's a gag order on my boss. They tear up my performance appraisal. They're going to write me a check for 6 months severance. They're going to give me outplacement service. And I think that was it. So I'm saying,
That's a
yeah. I go down to Atlanta trying to find a condo to buy that I can rent out. Oh, on top of that, they paid his legal fees.
Oh,
like
nice.
$1,500 for an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm out of Ameritech. I mean, okay. Uline. Yes. Questions.
We have some questions coming in. Uncle Jesse watching. So the first question was, from who did you, wait, let me make sure I get this right. Okay. From whom did you get the desire to achieve? And especially in areas when you face a number of obstacles and internal fears?
I guess some of it came from the frat and my parents and my brother. My brother was about 4 years ahead of me at SIU down in Carbondale. He was president of the chapter. Mm-hmm. I became president of the chapter. But I saw other brothers that were like excelling in their careers. Many of them went on to get their PhDs, presidents of universities, and all sorts of stuff. So I had some role models that I could benchmark myself to, especially when I got in the Black MBA Association. Okay. And the chemistry, like, hey, we all support each other. We're all in this together. You know, this is in the early 70s and whatnot. We're the tokens at all of our companies for the most part, you know. So, okay, how do we navigate this thing, you know? I remember at American Can, I'd be working on a project and everything would change over the weekend by Monday. So like the stuff I was working on was like no good. And I said, well, what happened? Well, these guys would get together and play golf over the weekend, which I never got ready to play. Yeah. They probably in the course anyway back in that time, you know. And they changed stuff. So I wasn't a part of the good old boy network, you know. So, but I had a lot of role models to look at to motivate me. And then I sort of had that innate skill of getting involved in things and volunteering and getting elected to run this and that and whatnot. So that was sort of my motivation.
Okay, thank you. Another question, what advice do you have for those of us who have limited resources and limited experience?
Well, limited experience is to get more experience, academically as well as experience-wise. You can do that in several ways, studying obviously, but joining organizations. And I think about entrepreneurs, my advice to them has always been work for a company that's in the industry, a leader in the industry of what you have a desire to be in. That gets you up the experience curve fairly rapid because your goal is to be there for a little while and then branch out on your own.
Sorry, really quick. I remember that because at one point when I was still living in Michigan after college, I got the idea that I wanted to open up a Chick-fil-A. Yeah. Chick-fil-A, it'll be so popular. And you told me, well, you should go work for a fast food restaurant first since there's not a Chick-fil-A and, you know, learn the ropes. And I was like, but that's not what I want to do. I don't want to do that part. But I remember, you know, going back to your answer, I think it was that, getting that experience. So long story short, I did not open up a Chick-fil-A in Michigan.
Well, there's another part of that. Number two, mistakes cost money. Mm-hmm. So if you can make mistakes working for a corporation on their money, you're that head. Number two, if you're trying to get some money, get people to work with you, and you've got on your background, like I work for Procter and Gamble and I want to go into marketing, my own marketing company, that raises eyebrows and support. So you have an MBA from the top business school, you did some time at Procter and Gamble or others, you know, Procter was the big thing back then. And so I think that's the wisest way to go. There's a two-sided of that because lots of times it helps not to know the obstacles you're going to be confronted with before you jump out there. Because if you know about that, you might not ever jump out there. You know? Yeah. So Any other questions?
Yes. How did you survive in a Fortune 500 atmosphere?
Woo, you assimilated as quickly as possible. There were some bumps. Um, there were more limits. I remember I was being switched from one department to another, and a position opened up for a product manager. This was when I was at American Can Company, my first corporation. And I didn't even get interviewed. They brought in a guy from the finance department, no sales background, no MBA, no nothing, finance guy. I didn't even get interviewed. I said, okay, I got another year and a half to go. You just suck it up.
Yeah.
And when I knew I was out of there. You start lining things up so you can leave.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, the day I left, I quit 3 jobs the day I left. I quit American Can Company. Warner Lambert had an opening. I didn't take that job. I was also driving a limo at night because I had bought a condo. And as soon as, yeah, always hustling, always grinding. One of the things my friends had told me, some of my white colleagues I was in sales with said, whatever you do, buy some real estate, get something. So my like, okay, I'm going to be in Connecticut for a year. Let me buy a condo. I'll sell it at the end of the year. I will have lived rent free. I'm back to Chicago. I didn't know I was going to still be in Connecticut. But it happened. It was a nice split level 2-bedroom condo. It was really cool for entertaining. I'll leave that alone. It cost $52,500. This was in 77.
Okay.
Years later, I sold it for 170.5, more than triple. Yeah.
How many years later?
9 years later.
Wow.
Right. Yeah. And I said, oh, this real estate thing is easy, you know. So, you know, it's you got to get some real estate. Whoever, you know, just a pile of rents of cancer checks for an apartment is not the way to go long term. You have to have a strategy. You have to cut back on just hanging out, partying, and whatnot. But I had a relocation package at American Can Company. Excuse me. It was 30 days, full expenses, hotel, meals, everything. So my brother then was living in Queens. So I would stay with him Friday, Saturday, and Sunday night. So my 30 days, I was able to turn into 7.5 weeks. Okay.
They didn't say calendar days. They just said 30 days.
They said 30 days. I said, cool, 30 days. And then after that, you went on per diem, which means they gave you a flat amount each day. Back then it was like, what was it, $30 a day. That's an incentive like, okay, we've cut the full expenses, you better find a place to stay.
Yeah.
So I milked that for another 7.5 weeks.
What?
Yeah, because I was staying 3 days, I was staying in my brother's house, Jesse. So I took that money and stashed it and used that for my down payment to get my condo.
Okay. And where in Connecticut is the condo?
This was in Ridgefield, Connecticut.
Okay.
In the middle of nowhere. I was in Ridgefield 6 months before I saw another Black person.
Oh my gosh.
6 months before I even saw another Black person.
Oh man.
But it was part of my strategy. You know, I was getting my little salary increases and my little assignments and whatnot and building my experience base, making mistakes on their money. So I was cool with that. Then, you know, went on after Hugh Blind. It was funny, like that was sort of traumatic. First time I'm terminated from a position.
Yeah.
And doing pretty good.
Yeah.
And I had to kick in the Black MBA Association at this point. As I said, I was vice president Chicago, vice president New York, president New York, blah, blah, blah on the board. And I'm selected MBA of the year. And at the awards banquet, our keynote speaker is Dr. Clifton Wharton. Dr. Wharton was the first Black president at Michigan State, first Black president of SUNY State University System in New York, the largest college system in the country. He was CEO of TIAA-CREF, the world's largest private pension fund company. And shortly after I left Hugh Blind, I get a call from a headhunter. There's a job opening at TIAA-CREF.
Wow.
I don't know if that hooked up with Dr. Wharton or not, but it was like, woo, yes. And I'm the assistant vice president.
Wow.
Okay. Yeah, group insurance products. So It was that was a good ride. I wish I had lasted longer, but I was in a new division, the long-term care division, and we just weren't making the numbers. Long-term care was just coming out. People weren't accustomed to paying those high premium rates, so our sales didn't go well. And as a nonprofit, TIAA focused primarily on colleges, universities, and nonprofit organizations. So my boss made a recommendation to the corporation. We need to shut this division down. Yeah. So it's his job, my job, and everyone else's job. Yeah. Yeah. And it was a good decision financially for the company. It really was their area of expertise. And the nice thing about TIAA, I was in like a little over 4 years, maybe about 4.5 years. I had a little more time to go before I got vested. Now it's only like 5 years. Okay. So HR says, contrast it with Hubline. HR meets with me and said, okay, Derryl, here's what the deal is. We got to shut down this division. What do you want? I said, well, I want to make my 5 years so I get vested, so I can get this money.
Right.
Said, okay, no problem.
Nice.
Yeah. And then I said, well, some outplacement service would be helpful. No problem. I said, okay, so I'm rolling along. So I'm coming in every day to work, looking for a job. Got a secretary helping me look for a job. But at TIAA, part of my job was introducing long-term care, and I signed up the most universities and programs anyone else in the company. I was number one at that too. And so I traveled a lot around the country. I became a frequent point junkie when I was at American Can Company, because now I'm traveling at American Can across the country rather than just Chicago region and whatnot. So I joined all the frequent flyer programs when they started. Every airlines, every rental car, every hotel. So wherever I go, I'm going to get some points somewhere. The result of that was like I had a 15-year period of doing like international travel, the Caribbean, Japan, Australia, Hawaii, free. Hotel and airfare paid for.
All the points programs right now.
Right.
When we started.
Yep. You and mom traveling free to all these nice places and whatnot. Yep. At the beginning, it wasn't an automated system. You turned in a little paper coupon and they tracked your points. So whenever I had someone traveling somewhere, I said, are you in the frequent flyer program? No. Would you turn in this coupon for me? And they would. One day I was coming back from LA. My uncle had a license for the '84 Olympics. So from that one day, I got points from LA to New York, LA to DC, LA to Atlanta. Right. I was just racking points up. We got points per rental, like a rental car. Yeah. So I would turn my cars in every day, get my 500 points. I would stay at a hotel. I'd check in and check out every day. That's how I got my points, you know.
I mean, that's smart. That's smart.
It got wise to it and changed it from a daily stay to a total dollar expenditure. What they do now. Okay. Advantage to checking in and checking out. Yeah. So that's how I work that program. Okay. And I use American mostly. I've got more than 1,300,000 points that I accumulated with American Airlines. I'm lifetime gold with them. And then I Premier on United, and I was silver on another airlines. I can't remember. Right. And we did a deal with Marriott Corporation to use them as our first hotel right of refusal for our conferences. Yeah. So they made so now I'm lifetime platinum with Marriott. So you get all the perks and whatnot, and then travel with the MBA Association. Ching ching, more points. Right. And I remember at TIAA, and I should be talking more about the business, but this is more fun stuff.
All of it.
In most corporations, your immediate supervisor has to sign off on your expense report. Okay. So when I would travel with the brass, they'd have me pick up the tab. Because my boss would sign off my expense report. His boss was with us, so slid right through. No problems, you know. So that's what they would do. I said, I'll take the check. I'll take the check. I'll take the check.
All those points.
Yeah, they said, okay, no problem. So I'm signing off stuff. Expense reports are sliding right through. I'm racking up points. And I remember American, like the first quarter of the year is usually the slowest travel. People have traveled for the holidays, Thanksgiving, Christmas, or whatnot. So usually you get your best rates, best promotions. Americans open a lot of promotions and whatnot. So I had to get one more trip in. So I was in Manhattan. I left at lunchtime, flew to Philadelphia, turned around and came back so I could qualify for my points.
Oh my goodness.
On the business side, TI Craft was probably one of the most impressive companies I ever worked for. Yep. They were very fair with their customers. When I would speak at trade shows or conferences or whatnot, people would come up and say, thank you. I mean, usually it's a time for your customers to bitch and moan and complain. Yeah. I was all people coming by and telling me, thank you.
Wow. That's awesome. So a couple questions have come in. One was, how much of this is new to me? So I have heard a few of these stories, but I feel like I get new details every time. So some details I have not heard. So it's entertaining and like very informative. So I'm enjoying this as much as you guys. And then another question, what is the future on MBA graduates or of MBA graduates, you think now?
That's an excellent question for this reason. I was back about 2-3 years ago, back to the University of Chicago for an alumni event. And it was not uncommon when I was in grad school to have a double major. Mine was marketing and finance. Okay. Students today, back then, are taking triple majors. And their third major is entrepreneurship. Mm. And University of Chicago has an outstanding entrepreneurial program. And so that's, your generation is more focused on being an entrepreneur, coming up the next Facebook, get it going, sell it, flip it off, and start something else, or just sit back and play with your money. Mm-hmm. In my generation, MBA programs primarily prepared you to work for corporations. Mm. That was primarily the main vehicle for you at that time. So things are changing now. There wasn't any online classes, for example. When I was at American Can Company, it was an exciting day when we got an IBM Selective 2 typewriter, okay? No cell phones, no laptops, no computers, okay? So things have changed drastically. At that alumni meeting that I went to, the keynote speaker was a gentleman by the name of J.B. Pritzker. Okay. J.B. Pritzker is now the governor of Illinois. His family, their assessed value is like $23.4 billion. Oh. They donated $100 million to the University of Chicago hospital system, the Pritzker Medical Center, you know, and they donated like $100 million. I think he went to law school at Northwestern. So he gave $100 million either Northwestern or Loyola, I don't remember which, and gave some money for the Entrepreneurial Center. So one good thing about grad school is a chance to make contacts, to network, and it looks good on your paper also. But like getting an MBA today is not enough. You have to have a technical skill also. Mm-hmm. You have to be good at something that the marketplace says we need to run a successful business. So you need to think about that also. It's like now I'm trying to get my speeds up on social media. Mm-hmm. Become more proficient at that. Because like when I helped Tetley become the second largest tea company in the U.S., you know, outstanding market share, sales, profits, 100 years, it's a whole different ball game now, whole different ball game. Mm-hmm. And networking. I mean, I have some lifelong friends from the Black MBA Association. And we're going to be in Chicago again next year. We were going to celebrate our 50th anniversary this year in D.C., but because of the virus, we had to shut that down and whatnot. Right. It's going to be in Chicago. I'm on the planning committee, and we've got some stuff on the board that is going to be amazing. And I'm going to hook up your sorority sister, who has HBCU Day, trying to incorporate her in the program in some kind of way. And just stuff like that. Get the Obama Foundation. Obama was heavily in the University of Chicago. He taught school there. He's one of those Nobel Prize winners up on the 5th floor at the Gleacher Center. His picture's up there. Unfortunately, not too many Black folks up there. He's the only one. But yeah, I hope that answers the question.
Yes, I think it did. And people are just like saying, hi, preach, you're dropping gems. So thank you for that. Charity, hey, Dom, Vic. Thanks, guys, for joining. Oh, they're wishing you happy Father's Day too, Dad.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So changing gears a little, not all business, but it can be if you want. But what are some of your like favorite memories or funniest moments? I mean, I know you have stories for days, but one that like, I can't believe I did that. That was pretty amazing.
Yeah, I do. I got relocated from Connecticut to the Michigan, working for Ameritech. And back then, you could cut some pretty good deals when you're getting a job and relocating. Full relocation package. Rhonda tells me they spent about $50,000 to relocate us from Connecticut to Michigan. A signing bonus, 20 grand signing bonus, and nice job, whatnot. I started August 1st, but October, they tell me I don't have a job.
So you started?
I started August 1st of that year.
September, October.
Right.
Dang.
Right. They spent $50,000, relocate me, signing bonuses, all this other stuff and whatnot. And like 2 or 3 months, 3 months later, they tell me you don't have a job. I said, whoa. And what they did, and it went through a regular cycle, they wanted to reduce headcount. So what they did is that they changed the job descriptions for all the positions, which the attorneys told them to do. They want to avoid lawsuits from people, why are you terminating me? This is before states started passing laws about you can just release someone if you want to. So they were afraid about all these lawsuits. So I interviewed for my position again, got hired back in, and I was with them 9 years. But this went on like every 2 or 3 years. It's like you go through this churn again. I used to come in on Saturdays and help my people, I had about 27 direct reports then. I used to come in on the weekend and help them do resumes. Because for many of them, this was in the telecommunications industry, very stable, whatnot. They had never worked for another company.
Wow.
Hadn't done any resumes, so I'm spending my time on the weekends helping them write resumes. So I got back in, but it turned out to be a good experience. I got appointed to the steering committee for the Political Action Committee. So I was working with members of Congress on our behalf for the telecommunications industry. I'll never forget one trip to DC. They gave us a tour, and I got a chance to get into the Supreme Court chambers where the Supreme Court justices meet. Very small area. I was surprised it was so small, but they don't want a lot of people in there anyway. They're doing their thing, but that was very prestigious. Excuse me. But the old wow element was, I came up with an idea, looking at trends in the marketplace. Female businesses are growing at a faster pace. Minority businesses are growing at a faster pace. And, we need to start a multicultural marketing department. I wrote up a proposal about these trends. And I said, they're not ready for this. I hadn't even turned it in. And then one day I said, what the heck? You wrote it. You might as well turn it in.
Yep.
This is like late October, early November. Excuse me. I don't hear anything. Nothing. No, yes, good idea. We like it. We don't like nothing.
Oh my God.
I'm at a holiday Christmas party. Our printer, this was the Yellow Pages directory's business I was in. And my boss, the vice president of marketing, makes an announcement that Derryl's going to be heading up the multicultural marketing department. Like, what? It's like, I am? I said, oh, yeah, I am. Yeah. He had said nothing to me. We hadn't even discussed the proposal, and he's making an announcement. Wow. Okay, yeah, I'm going to do this. So I set off on this journey. I came up with a program, try and fast forward this a little bit. Come up with a program. It's very successful. It's a multicultural directory and a cultural directory for the African American community. I introduced those in Chicago. 28% increase in sales.
Mm.
And we didn't even have one Hispanic sales rep. Okay. And Chicago has about 1 million Hispanic people in the community, in the city. And we had those kind of sales with not even having someone who could speak the language for a lot of those people, a lot of those consumers. I was featured in Advertising Age. I had tied in the head of the Small Business Administration, Mrs. Alvarez, an appointee by President Clinton. In fact, I featured her on my first directory. And my quid pro quo was, hey, if you tie in with this program, I'll give you a page in the directory, talk about whatever you want, the services you want, and it's going to be on every house in the Hispanic community. I said, bet. So how I meet people, I go where they're going to be. If I know someone's going to speak someplace and I want to meet them, I go there. Because if I call the gatekeepers, now what are you calling for? What do you want? Their job is to block you from getting in.
Yeah.
Excuse me. So I go to this program where she's speaking, and I have my mock-ups of what it's going to look like and the benefit, price value story, why she should do it and whatnot. She said, well, you have to talk to my attorney. I said, okay. He's there at the same event. Turns out to be another Kappa brother.
Okay.
So I said, okay. He hooks me up with the meeting. I do the presentation. She's on board. She's on the cover. I roll it out.
Nice.
And one year for the African American community, I featured Walter Payton and Mahalia Jackson on the cover. And I was working with Connie Payton and the Chicago Bears. And that program turned out very well also. And I had a kickoff reception both years. In fact, I almost got President Clinton at my first event because I planned the event when he was going to be in Chicago.
Ooh.
Okay. And then Mrs. Alvarez was my go-between to get him to come.
Right.
But the Secret Service wouldn't let him come because they hadn't checked out the facility and all that stuff and whatnot.
No,
but can you imagine having the President of the United States at your rollout for a product?
Right. A regional product? That would be amazing.
I came that close to getting him. Oh. And I did the same thing with Alexis Herman. I featured her on one of the programs, and she was Secretary of Labor at the time. And when I went to her, I showed her, I said, hey, this is what we did with Mrs. Alvarez, Aida Alvarez. I want to do the same thing with you. But I already gotten validation. She said, okay, I'll do it, so. But here we go again, change in presidency. Mm-hmm. I mean, when I first wrote out the program, the president of our division was like, wow, excited and whatnot. I said, hey, we can do this internationally. I said, yeah, we can. Yes, we can, But that got turned around. Meritech got acquired by SBC. And Dick Notabart, who was our CEO, he got a platinum parachute, over $100 million when he left the company. What? Yes. And he was like in his 50s, something like that. $100 million. Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, the way they play games in corporate America is interesting. I'm just mad because I wasn't at that. I wasn't getting my check,
Right.
Not that size anyway.
Okay, so we have about 6 minutes left. So 2, decide which way you want to go. 1, curious a little bit about your experience having worked in both corporate America and as an entrepreneur, just like things you found different, you liked or disliked, or lessons learned. And then also just any other encouragement, words of wisdom for anyone, in either position, not even just work career-wise, but just anything else you'd like
to? Number 1, pursue your dreams. The things you enjoy doing, you'll do better. You'll work harder. But don't let obstacles get in your way. It goes back to that self-confident thing. When I talked about the young lady in college, I was too shy before. Got my confidence up. That you'd be surprised what you can accomplish when you believe in yourself. Mm-hmm. Had 2 primary entrepreneurial opportunities. One was when I took over a company, Smoke and Joe Products, a line of hot sauce companies. But the other one that's a little more interesting to talk about was when I started energy efficient lighting, LED lighting. And how do I do this in such a short time? Start ground zero, no money, no experience, no knowledge in the industry. I decided to go to an international light show. They had over 500 exhibitors there. I said, well, I can't get to all of them. Let me go to the big boys: GE, Cooper, Creed, Philips, Sylvania. I said, now, the amount of money these companies are investing, somebody who makes decisions is going to be at their booth.
Yeah.
So, so I'm meeting vice presidents at these companies. And I say, hey, this is what I want to do. Can I come by and visit your facilities? Oh, yeah, come on down. So on my dime, I spent my money to go visit all of them. The most impressive one was GE, plus it was the closest. I go to GE, they take me in a room, they get on the panel, ceilings open up, lights switch over, light panels drop down. Plus they have like light bulbs that Edison worked on over 100 years ago. They have original art collection, Norman Rockwell and whatnot. So they say, yeah, we can work together. So blah, 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 blah. I put a deal together to bring them in on, and that's doing the LED lighting for the city of Detroit. It's a $160 million project. So I'm working with them. We have a first meeting with the out company, and GE says, Derryl's our man. If you have any questions, talk to him. He'll get to us, blah, 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 blah. I didn't know they're going to say that. And I'm like, whoa, whoa, how am I going to spend my money? Unfortunately, we came in second in the RFP proposal. Yeah. And there's no gold medals or silver medals or bronze medals when you come in second on an RFP bid.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, they gave me 1%. Yes, 1.6 million.
Right.
But unfortunately, but the point being that you can be surprised what you can accomplish if you set out a goal and try and focus on it.
Mm-hmm.
So follow your dreams. You have to do the homework. You got to put in the time. You got to study. Network. Yeah. I always say.
I would say you're like one of the kings of networking for sure.
Well, I do a pretty good job of meeting people. I don't stay in touch with them as well as I should. I always say it's who you know to show what you know. If you don't get a chance to get in the door, you can be brilliant, but
right.
If it doesn't. And then I'm always bringing people on projects to, I said, fill in my gaps. And I don't know this, I don't know that. So because of my experience with Smoke and Joe, I decided for this business, I just wanted to be a middleman. I didn't want to make anything. I didn't want to, carry inventory or anything. I'll just be a middleman. Put the deal together, give me a cut of the commission.
Yeah.
So that's the main thing. Boy, the time went by fast.
I know. No, that's good. That's good. Yeah, so we just have a little more, literally 2 minutes. I just got the countdown. But okay. Chavoy said, can you believe he's accomplished all this in one lifetime and still be going? True.
Well, there's a little more.
All right, you have 1 minute and 45 seconds. Go.
I was appointed to the board of University of Connecticut, Board of Overseers. I've served on Southern Illinois University for the School of Business, the Graduate Management Admissions Council. I was on the advisory board for that. National Black MBA Association, National President, Chairman of the board, American School Counselors Advisory Board. And I was also on Arthur Ashe's Sports Scholars Awards Program board, where we recognize outstanding college athletes who are also academic students. And I also chaired the New York Corporate Matching Gift Campaign for United Negro College Fund. I did that for a year. Oh, and I was on the Celebrity Entertainment Committee for Special Olympics. So, I mean, it's hard. People ask me to do something worthwhile. I have a hard time saying no.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line. So if you want me to do something, please don't ask, because I'll probably say yes.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Dad. I appreciate you coming on with me. Thank you, everyone, for joining. It's been awesome having you. We might have to do a part 2. I know you have so many stories, so. Part 2. Awesome. Well, again, happy Father's Day to everyone. Hope you have the rest of your evening. Happy Father's Day, Dad. Let's see, Barbara Bostic from the NBA Association. And my line sister said, all this, and you found time to raise amazing daughter. Thanks, Charity.
Yeah, Barbara was one of my good friends with the Black MBA Association. And thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.